Good morning. I would love to invite everybody from the cafe to come in and join us, and everybody in the back, please feel free to join us up at the front. My name is Claire Smith, and I'm going to be your MC today. It's so lovely to see all your faces. Who's excited to be here? Woohoo! All right. Well, everybody please rise so that we can worship together, and the band's going to kick off our first song.
As you know, this past week we celebrated True Heavenly Parents' Day, a great day to recognize and celebrate God. And I feel this song is also a great way to bring God into our heart. So we're going to tone it down a little bit and sing Blessing of Glory.
Whoa, something's off here. Okay.
Now the light of glory arises like the sun that shines on high. Now awaken into freedom, oh revive, ye spirits all revive. Wake the mountains and the valleys, bring alive the springs of the earth. Light the world forever with the light of your rebirth. Light the world forever with the light of your rebirth. We are called to bring back the glory to the life of God above. Now the Lord in his greatness fills the universe with tender love. Ever seeking souls awakened, ever calling them to be free. How shall I attend him who is calling to me? How shall I attend him who is calling to me? From the dark of death I awaken and rejoice to live in grace. When the one who came to save me holds me tenderly in his embrace, I rejoice to feel the comfort of the love he has for me. What a blessing of glory to rejoice eternally. What a blessing of glory to rejoice eternally. Now he lifts me up to embrace me in the blessing that is mine. What a blessing to receive him in a love so tender and divine. How can I return the blessing, though in all my life I will try? I can never stop feeling how unworthy am I. I can never stop feeling how unworthy am I.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. And please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Parent, as we gather here together to connect to you, I ask that we can really first start with a fresh heart, and that we can really offer up everything that's on our heart and on our mind and our spirit and our soul back up to you. Each and every person in this room walks a different life and has different challenges and different victories and different things they have to go through each and every week, but we're all united here at this moment, centered on you and centered on connecting to something bigger than ourselves to become the children that you want us to be. I ask that you can be in this moment, that you can be with us as we leave this building, as we carry on through our lives, and that we can really live our life intentionally this week. Today we're going to be hearing such a special message about time and intentionality, and I hope that we can open up our hearts and open up our minds to truly receive that. Heavenly Father, I ask that you can be with all of the people who may be suffering, all the people who may be in pain, that you can heal them with your grace and love, and that we can really do our our role in supporting those around us and bringing out the best in others each and every day. I ask that you can be with our national movement and everyone else who's worshiping here throughout all the churches in America and on the world, worshiping to connect to your heart. I ask that you can really be with us as we walk, but we can also make you proud each and every day. I want to offer up this prayer not only in my name, but in each and every person's name in this room. Clara and Mitsu Smith, blessed couple, amen and aju. Thank you, everybody. It's so nice to be here with you and connect to all of you after a busy week. Now I'd like to actually ask everybody to really welcome and say hi to everybody here today. So everybody, if you could stand, we'd like to really provide an opportunity for everybody to give a handshake or a hug, share the love, and really connect to your neighbor and connect to people you haven't seen in a while. Well, thank you, everybody, for that. Thank you for bringing the love and putting it in action. I love seeing all the energy that gets created out of this room. So thank you all. And it's wonderful to see the room fill out. I do want to make a specific moment right now to see if anybody has brought new guests or if there's any new faces in this room that might want to introduce themselves. We have a mic here in case you might want to. And if you're, in case you do, please feel free to stand up. But if not, we also want to welcome you. We have a special welcoming committee in the back, and we also want to, of course, include you in our fellowship lunch downstairs after the service so we can get to know you a little bit better. Wonderful. All right, so at this time we have a couple of announcements. So we have one person. Wonderful. Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for standing up.
My name is Valérie Jonah. It's my Colo family invited me. It's my first time to share with the church. I'm here with all my three kids, my family.
Beautiful family.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, if there's no one else, we're going to transition to the announcements now. Thank you for standing up. We're so happy to have you join us today. I'm going to transition right now to our main part of our sermon, and Pastor Adonia Hentrick will be giving our message today. And in lieu of time, we're going to be transitioning right to her. And typically we have an offering song, but we want to keep on pace. So Pastor Adonia will be speaking a little bit more today around the topic of time. Time always eludes us. We always say, I wish we had more time, right? At the end of the week, I wish I did more. And she'll be really speaking about how to make time and serve out that time intentionally based on dominion and in line with our sermon series. So let's welcome up Pastor Adonia.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for taking your time to come here today. I think something I'll be mentioning today is our priorities. And where do we put our priorities? And our priorities can be seen not so much by what we say they are, but where we invest our time and our money and our efforts. If we were to break down a week and say, how much time did I spend with my family? How much time did I spend with God? How much time did I spend eating? How much time did I spend watching TV? How much time did I spend scrolling on my phone? Gosh, that's a little bit of a scary thought. If I were to add up how many hours in a week I spend scrolling on my phone, somebody else might look at that and think of it as a priority. But I'm not saying it's a priority, but maybe. Anyway, it's something to think about, our time. Where do we spend our time? So my title, who's in control here? So I have a quote to start us off with. This is from Psalm 90. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And I'm going to share a little bit from this article I found. It popped up while I was scrolling on Facebook one day, but it really caught me. And then this was maybe a year or two ago, and then just recently it came up again, and I thought, oh, I remember this, and I wanted to read it again because I felt it was really eye-opening. So this is an article by Tim Urban. You may have heard of him. He's pretty hot on YouTube right now. He's a very deep thinker. He's very profound. And I feel like he took this quote to number our days, and he took it very literally, and he put it down in graphs and in formats, and it's very eye-opening. So I'm going to share a little bit of that with you and a little bit of his article. So he was saying, let's look at a human life. Let's say, let's be generous and say we've got 90 years to live. And he himself was 34. So he said, okay, this is how many years we've got. If we look at visually, how many months do we have in our life? He breaks it down again. This is how many months in our life. It kind of looks like a lot, but it kind of doesn't look like that much either. And then he said, okay, how many weeks do we have? That's how many weeks. And he actually wrote this article once, and then he was like, I was going to put it down in days, but it seemed like too much. And then he was like, oh, we'll just do it anyway. And so this is how many days in 90 years. So, you know, each of these dots is a Monday or a Sunday or a Wednesday. But even a lucky person who lives to 90 years old can fit every single day of your life on one single piece of paper. But so this was his first introduction. Like, he wrote this first article based on looking at your life from a whole perspective. But then he started thinking, what if, rather than looking at our life in measurements of units of time, we were to measure our life by our activities or events? So his next chart, this comes from his life. Say he's 34. He's lived 34 of his winters, and he gets to look forward to 56 more. And then he says, that means I've also got about 56 Super Bowls left to watch. He's like, I don't really like swimming in that ocean that much. I kind of do like a make my mom happy, go in the ocean once a year kind of thing. So I've got about 56 swims in the ocean left. And then he says, well, you know, I read about 5 books a year. So I kind of tend to think that I could just read any books that I want to. The world is full of books and I can read them all. But actually, I've got about 300. I can pick 300 books and then I'm going to sign off and the rest are going to remain unread. So what books am I going to read? And then he grew up in Boston, so he measures his remaining games of Red Sox that he can watch. He said growing up, he used to watch a lot, but now he only goes once every 3 years or so, and assuming he doesn't move back to Boston, he's got, what is that? He's got about 20 games left to watch. He also talks about the number of presidents that he's seen elected and about how many more he's going to see elected. He says, I eat pizza about once a month, so I can look forward to eating about 700 more pizzas. And he says, my what's it called? My outlook is even better for dumplings. He says, I eat Chinese twice a month, and I always make sure I get at least 6 dumplings. So that's how many dumplings I get. I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Lots and lots of dumplings for him. But then he says, but these aren't the things that I've been thinking about most. All of these things have a regular ratio of occurring, you know, regularly throughout his life. And so he can guesstimate, you know, this is how many dumplings I'm going to have. This is how many winters I've got left. But then what I've really been thinking about is the parts of life that are not spread out evenly. The things where the ratio doesn't align with how far I am through life. So he said, I was thinking about my parents. Growing up, I lived with my parents. I spent every day of my life with them until I was 18 and I graduated from high school, right? But then since heading off to college and later moving out of Boston, he says he sees them an average of 5 times a year for about 2 days each time. So thinking of that, he only sees them 10 times a year. And let's see, about 3% of the days that he spent with them each year of his childhood. So every year, compared to his childhood, he only spends 3% of that time with his parents. And then he says, when you look at that reality, you realize that despite not being at the end of my life, I would be incredibly lucky to have my parents around until I'm in my 60s. So that would give me about 30 more years of coexistence with my parents. And if that 10 days a year thing holds, that's about 300 days left of having mom and dad. That's less time than I spent with them in any one of my 18 childhood years. So then, he marked out, okay, this is a little bit hard to see, maybe especially if you're in the back. This is every day of his 60 years that he has with his parents. And there's little red X's through all of these days. At the very bottom, I don't know, there's like 3 inches on the screen where the color changes a little bit. Those days are not X'd out yet. At the rate he's going, those are how many days he has left with his parents. So it says, when you look at that reality, you realize that despite not being at the end of my life, you may very well be nearing the end of your time with some of the most important people in your life. If I lay out the total days I'll ever spend with each of my parents, assuming I'm as lucky as I can be, this becomes starkly clear. It turns out that when I graduated from high school, I had already used up 93% of my in-person parent time. I'm now enjoying the last 5% of that time. We're in the tail end. And he also goes on to talking about, his sisters. He grew up living with his sisters, and where he's at now, he has maybe 15% of his total time left to enjoy with his family. And he talks about he had a group of friends that he played hearts with in high school, and they had so much fun. But now they get together maybe once a year, and he's got a small percentage of time left with that. So then he says, what do we do with this information? Where am I? I mean, I was thinking about myself. I'm not 30. I'm almost 34 myself. So in reality, that's probably what I've got with my parents. And if you're a parent, you can think that's about what time I've got with my kids. So I'll readdress this later on in my message, but I just thought this was a really good perspective to start off with, and realizing that time is precious. And some of you are younger and may feel like you've got all the time in the world to do all the things that you want. And some of you are older and you may feel like I'm running out. But I hope to dispel both of those feelings for you by the end of this. Let's see. So I feel like the point of this here is, without even realizing it, most of us feel like we're at the mercy of time. We never have enough of it. Or we have it, but then we realize we haven't been using it on the things that we want to be using it on, or we should be using it on. How many people get to the end of like Clara was saying, at the end of the week and realize they didn't do all the things that I wanted to do? I'm very familiar with that feeling. But I feel like that's just kind of that's putting time in control over us. I feel like time is a gift from God, right? Everything that God gave us, this planet, our lives, includes time. Time is a gift from God, and God didn't mean for us to be controlled by or chased by time. But we were actually designed to be the masters of time. So I think we tend to think of time in terms of days, years, decades, the kind of things that he listed at the beginning. But what is that really? It's actually just a series of moments. Moment by moment by moment. Now, and now, and now, and now. One after another. And I have a couple of really great quotes from Father Moon that I want to share with you that talk about the value and the preciousness and sometimes the difficulty to seize the moment. A day can be divided into morning, day, and nighttime. They look similar, but they change every moment. During the process of moving from morning to noon, there is a time when it is difficult to know whether it is morning or noon. Also, when it becomes night from noon, there is a time in the middle when it is difficult to make a distinction between day and night. The same goes for night. There is a point of separation where it divides. It is easy for us to miss that parting moment. Isn't that so? We don't know when it changes. Even when we look at the 4 seasons, spring changes to summer in a moment, within the sound of a tick. You do not know when spring becomes summer. It is a very simple problem, but very difficult for anyone to know. Also, we cannot know the time when summer becomes autumn and when autumn becomes winter. We can say the same thing with our life. The life of a human being changes from childhood to adolescence, middle age to old age. However, when we pass on to adolescence from childhood, there is no one who remembers it and says, "Oh, I have finished my boyhood and I'm going on to my adolescence." No one has ever felt this moment as acutely as a racer standing on the starting line, waiting for the split second to run. I feel like it's only sometimes when you're in that position where that split second matters that we really become aware that there is a moment. And there's a difference in moments. How many of you have been watching the Olympics? Yeah, did you guys watch last night? Last night was the women's skeleton. And so this women's skeleton, I've heard of the luge and the bobsled, but I wasn't really aware of what the skeleton is. It's kind of like the luge, only you're going down head first. You're going like 80 miles an hour down this little track, face first. And the timing is so ridiculously accurate. They measure down to the hundredths and I think even thousandths of a second because the difference between the winner and the loser can be within hundredths of a second. Last night it was the final competition, right? The top 3 ladies were going and one lady did an amazing job, and then the lady who won gold last year from Great Britain was going to go. And there has never been a woman from Great Britain who won 2 back-to-back gold medals. And they were saying, this is her chance, you know? And she always starts out slow on the track, so you're like, I don't know if she's going to catch up or if she's going to do it. But, you know, she did it, and she got all the turns right. She didn't bump, and she didn't swerve. And she pulled in, like 2/100ths of a second faster than the person before her. And then the last lady won, and she was also contending for the gold medal. She would be the first woman from Austria, I believe, to ever win a medal in skeleton. So there's a lot on her, and she'd already placed herself so well to win. But then on her way down, she bumped the side just a little bit, and the commentator was like, "Oh, that's a whole half of a second she lost." And I'm like, a half of a second? And they're like, she's never going to come back from that. And she didn't, and she wasn't able to win. But the difference a split second can make in your life. And I think, you know, it's easy to think, well, I'm not an Olympic athlete. I'm not running the skeleton. So, you know, it doesn't, I've got some more lenience here. This, you know, that split second thing doesn't really apply to me. But actually, if we're not paying attention in those split seconds, how many seconds are going to go by before we start paying attention? How many minutes? How many hours? How many days are we going to go by before we realize, before we wake up, before we realize that maybe now is the time, or maybe it's already passed us by? Oh, here's another quote. Almost everything that the prophets predicted has occurred. However, we must know that there were only a few moments when we truly knew the significance of the time right at that period and were prepared and able to meet it from an objective position. After the time passes, you reflect on that time saying, oh, spring came at that time. It was a good time of fortune for our nation. The time so-and-so predicted has already passed away. This has always been the way of life for human beings, to reflect on the time after it has passed by. Human history has been like this. There are important moments in your life, too. During your life, an important point of time, which is definitely necessary to your life, will occur in our lives. Rare is the person who clearly knows the right time, thinking, this is the right time, and with a ready, go, greets the new age with happiness. So we don't know how much time we have. You know, how many crucial moments have passed us by without us recognizing that there was an opportunity here. But don't get caught up in that. Also, how many crucial moments have you caught? I don't believe that any of you would be in this room if you hadn't caught a crucial moment in your life. I'm sure each one of you can reflect and realize that you were at a crossroads. And if you had waited a second longer to say yes, or to jump in, or to take action, that your life would have gone a completely different direction. So I commend you for the times that many people never notice, even one moment in their life. So I commend you for catching those moments. And then how many more will you get? You might think that you're older. Maybe you think your time is running out. Maybe you think, I think I've already used up my crucial moments. Or maybe if I'm lucky, I've got one or two left. Or maybe you're younger and you think, it's all still ahead of me. I'm not in a rush. I can kind of do what I want because there's always going to be time for me to do the things that I want to do. There's always going to be time for me to catch the wave and make the right decisions. But you know what I think? I think that both of these mindsets are irrelevant. Both of these mindsets are irrelevant when you face the reality that actually all we have is now. All we have is now. The young person, the baby, the person who's 90 years old. Roger, your mother, Grandma Dora, she was somebody who I feel like seized every day and every moment and lived it without thinking about she was running out of time or something. She lived those days. All we have is 24 hours in a day. And I'm going to bet that all of you have this full 24 hours ahead of you. It's possible, and I hope it doesn't happen that, maybe somebody gets cut short. But we have now. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. All you have is now. And so it's what we do with now. This is another great quote. Is the past valuable? Is today valuable? Or is it the future that is valuable? It is not the past that is valuable, and it is not the future that is valuable. Today is what is valuable. The problem is today. The problem is one single moment. Therefore, extend and expand that moment to a day, and let's hold on and set the direction of our days to our side. He's talking about being the master here, taking dominion over time, not getting swept up with what time demands of us. Let's accumulate the days and establish one whole month on our side. You must live day by day with a standard of victory, accumulating that into a month. Therefore, keep the moment. I am telling you to watch the present. I don't know if you guys were paying attention during the national announcements, but Mrs. Moon was talking, and she said, "Do I look old?" She said, "I don't look old, but it's because I'm living every day with that heart. I'm living every day with a heart of attendance. I am living every day. I think that's all she had to say. I am living every day. She's not thinking about all the struggles that she went through in the past. She's not thinking about everything else that she has to go through in the future. But she knows what she has to do right now in relation to history and in relation to the future, but she knows what she has to do right now, and she's living it. In that moment, in that mindset, age doesn't matter. So, actually, when I started thinking about it, there's just so many topics about time. There's time management. There's many different philosophies and perspectives on time. And I felt like actually I could have done a couple of messages on this, but I do just want to share a little bit on my own experience, because I feel like I have a long way to go to be a true master, a true owner of time. But I will say I feel like I've made a significant progress since last year. So growing up, many of you know I grew up in very rural Missouri. It was basically a farm. I lived in nature. It was beautiful. I experienced God through the sunset. I experienced God through watching the interaction of wildlife and the life and the death and the cycle that happens in life. It was amazing. But my way of life was very slow-paced growing up. You know, my dad owned his own business, which he managed to run successfully using very little of his own time. And he focused a lot on his hobbies. He was gardening, he was landscaping, he was redirecting the path of our creek in order to make a deep swimming hole, you know. And my mom, I think she had some more ambitions, but she was more of a mom/mission type person, and she spent a lot of time with us. And I felt like I just had all the time in the world. I had more than enough time to do the things that I wanted to do. And if I did, you know, have something urgent to do or something very important, then I could focus on that and get it done. But a lot of the time, I was just kind of waiting for school to get out, waiting for summer vacation, waiting for the next holy day when there'd be a cool offering table to enjoy, you know, and just kind of drifting along with time. And that was okay. I think that was actually a really wonderful childhood experience to have. But then more things kind of started to get added into my life. You know, I went to a mission program, I got married, started to have kids, I started my own Etsy business, started to do more things publicly, became pastors, and all of those things started to add up and fill up my days. But I was still kind of in this, like, let's just go with the flow. Everything's going to work out fine. And this is getting a little bit stressful, but I think everything's still going to work out fine, until all of a sudden I realized I don't have enough time. There just aren't enough hours in the day to do the things that I need to do. And I felt like I was like, the ball is rolling, and I'm like I can't stay on top of the ball. I'm like 10 feet behind it, just trying to keep it in sight of what I'm doing, what I'm trying to accomplish. And there are things that were important to me, things like time with God. Is going to switch mics? Okay, sorry about the sounds. But there are things that I wanted to do in my life that I was not finding the time to do. I wanted to read. I wanted to meditate. I wanted to spend more quality time with my family and more quality time with my kids. And for a long time, I just felt like, I'll have that time. That time will always come. Until it just hit me one day. I will never have the time to do these things if I don't make the time. It was like, I need to take control of my life. I need to take control of the time that God has given me. And I have just as much time as somebody else who's got it all together and they've got it all under control. But I'm being run over by time rather than taking control of it. So that was at the beginning of last year. And I said, okay, I'm going to wake up early, and I'm going to do those things that I need to do. I'm going to take care of my prayer time, my reading time. I'm going to take care of my business stuff early on so that I can have more quality time with my family during the day. And I think you guys heard and witnessed some of my struggles with that last year. I did it for like a month, and then about a month into it, the kids got sick, and we all started sleeping in. And then I was like, oh no, we're gonna do it again. And so I start waking up early, and then I'd end up staying up too late one night, and I was like, oh, tomorrow doesn't matter. And then it was just this like up and down and up and down and up and down all year long. But at the end of the year, at the end of December, when I look back, I was really proud of myself, because I have a character that doesn't like to fail. I don't like to admit that I didn't do what I said I was going to do the way I said I was going to do it. But even though I had all these failures and falling down, it meant so much to me that I put God first in my life. It meant so much to me that I had quality time with my family, that even though I was embarrassed that I made mistakes and that I fell down, I kept getting up. And at the end of the year, I was really proud of that. And I could see that there were some changes in my life that were good changes that were coming because of that choice I had made and commitment that I tried to keep to. And then this year, also scheduling. For me, yeah. It was like whatever's most important, like urgent was the things I'd take care of, but things that weren't urgent would continually be put on the back burner, fall between the cracks. And those things that aren't urgent are often the most important things. Cultivating a relationship with your spouse, cultivating a relationship with your children, spending the time with God. It was so easy to feel like, oh, I'm so busy today, I don't have time to pray. I'm so busy today, I don't have time to play a game with my kids. I got to get this taken care of, But I also started prioritizing. So I have this planner, And this is a tip I got from Tony Robbins. Figure out what are your priorities in life. And usually it looks like faith, family, health. Also can include things like finances, job, things. But faith, family, health, friends, those are really what people care about the most. But those are the things that often get pushed aside. So he said, if this is your priorities, when you schedule your day, put in blocks of time for those priorities and make sure you fill them. And then somehow you end up making progress in those areas. So anyway, I felt that was something really helpful for me. And then this year, I've been doing it, guys. I've been waking up early. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get up at 5:30. I'm going to have an hour and a half to do all the things that I want to do. And I started doing it, and it felt so good. And I kept thinking more things I want to do. I started waking up earlier. This is mind-blowing to me. I'm like in awe of what I'm saying right now, because I've never, ever, ever been able to do something like that in my life and enjoy it. So this is, I feel like, just opened up a whole new world for me and what's possible with time. And many times we feel like we're constricted by time. We feel like we're controlled by time. We only have this much time to do stuff, but it's a whole new, light bulb's gone on. There is so much that we can do if we become the masters and the stewards of time. So that's just a little bit of my own testimony to that. And I think that there's a lot of aspects to this. We often want to do these things, but then somehow we end up that we didn't do those things. I was reading this book called Take the Stairs this morning, and this is a book about how our culture is like an escalator culture, right? If you get off the plane, get your baggage to the airport, everybody goes to the escalators and crowds on these little stairs going up, and maybe one or two people go up the stairs. And not judging people who use escalators or stairs, but he said this is a little bit of an external manifestation of how we live our life. It's this instant gratification monkey. in our brain. We know what we want to do. We've got the steering wheel, but then there's this little monkey that comes and says, "Hey, I'm fun. This is more interesting. Let's do this instead." And then we get distracted by this instant gratification monkey. And so that can look like, I know what I want. I want to be healthy. But then, there's this special event, and there's this delicious cake, and this would make me so happy right now, and I'll be sad if I don't have it, and then we have it. And then the next event comes along, and then the next event comes along, and then we have this idea of what we want, but we're not actually making the tougher choice in these moments, right? We're talking about moments, and these moments that will take us to where we want to go. We're often distracted by these, the instant gratification, the thing that makes me happy now. But if we make decisions thinking about our goals and our long-term happiness, it often requires us to do something that is not as fun or immediately rewarding. And we have to choose it over the fun and immediately rewarding thing that's right in front of us. But I feel like fortunately, we have a couple of great examples of the people who live that kind of life, the people who are masters of their time. I think you could actually take many examples of successful people. There are so many people who've done amazing things in the world, and I believe that it's because they had dominion over time. But I want to share a little bit about Reverend and Mrs. Moon. So, when Reverend Moon was 16 years old, he was praying, and it was like a revelation that he had from God and from Jesus that all of history, from Adam and Eve to this point, was God working to bring the existence of true love, manifesting his family on the earth. Everything leading up to this point. And he could also see, based on what history was, what still needed to be done in order for that to actually happen. What a monumental thing to consider, right? Thinking about all the problems and all the failures and all the hurts and all the pain and all the tragedies of 6,000 years of biblical history, and then thinking about what would it take to resolve that? What would it take to restore that? What would it take to bring this world back to God? And then saying, I'm going to do it in my lifetime. In one lifetime, I'm going to take all of this and turn it around. So I think something we can learn from Reverend Moon is that one thing that's really important when we think about our life, when we think about what we're doing, is what perspective are we taking? He wasn't looking from his own life. Oh, I'm 16. I can do whatever I want. I've got all the time in the world. But he was convicted. He saw immediately what there was and what needed to be done. And he put that as a priority in his life. That guided his decisions. Right? When there was we have so many choices in our day. We don't even realize we're making choices. But when there was an opportunity to do something that was easier, more relaxing, more gratifying in the moment, True Father it wasn't even a question for him because he knew where he was going. He knew what he needed to do. And so he could always make the right choice, even if it was a harder choice. Let's see here. Oh, this is also a great quote. This is from the Bible. This is from 2 Peter 3:8. But do not forget this one thing, dear friends. With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. I think I've often heard Reverend Moon quote this, and I think it's because it's so real to him, and he believed, I can cram 1,000 years of history into a day. And if I can do that, and I've got this many days left in my life, I can do anything. Right? With God's perspective, it can be like that. We can waste an entire lifetime, and it will just disappear in like a second on the timeline of history. But with this perspective of with what I have now, I can be 90 years old like Grandma Dora. I can be 90 years old, and I can still do so much because I have one day. I can do so much. And I think that if we tell this to God, if we say, here I am, I'm here for you, I'm not perfect, I've made mistakes, but I'm here for you. And I'm willing, from this point, I can make the tough choices. I can do the right things. Then I think God will say, really? Okay, then let's do it. I'm here with you. If you're willing to work with me, I'll work with you, and let's do a lot together. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how many days you have left. I think if we tell this to God, God can give us 1,000 years of life with what we have left. So I encourage you to not worry so much about what you've done. And don't project your past onto your future. But instead, look from God's perspective. What did God create me for? What is my calling? And believe that if I have that calling, there's a way for me to fulfill it. There is. So what are your goals? What are your dreams? Also, what time or moments are you in? There's in Ecclesiastes, there's a beautiful kind of poem. It says, there's a time for everything. You know, there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. And it goes on about time to search and a time to give up the search. And and I feel like we also need to recognize what am I in my life? We have different times in our life. Some of us are needing to plant. We need to build. And some of us need to harvest. Some of us need to take down some things. But know that wherever you are, recognize what time of your life that you are in, and know that God will work with you there. It may not look the same as somebody else's time of life, so don't compare. Don't compare what time of life you're in to the time of life somebody else is in. God can work with you in that time of life if you tell him, I'm here and I'm ready. So with that, I'm going to close up. Please join me in prayer. Good morning, our most beloved Heavenly Parent. We love you. Thank you so much for our life. Our life is such an incredible gift, and we are sorry, we repent, we apologize that we do not always recognize our life for the precious gift that it is. That you gave us a long life to live, and it may not even be long in the number of years or days, but you gave us a long life to fill with experiences. Thank you that each person here took the time to come here and be filled with your words and filled with your love. Every bit of time that we invest into you is showing you that this is our priority. You are our priority. Every time that we invest into other people and love other people is putting it as a priority in our life. We want to make these things our priorities, Heavenly Parent. Let us not get too caught up in watching the news. Let us not get too caught up in scrolling on Facebook. Let us not get too caught up in sleeping or eating. These are things that we need for our life, but they are not our life. Our life is found in you, and our life is found in love. And I pray that we can invest our time, invest our resources, invest our heart into these things so that you can claim our life, that we can stand at the end of our life and say, this is my offering to you. Thank you so much for your message today, and thank you for your continuing patience with us as we learn. It's a process for many of us, but we're determined to figure it out. We can do it. I offer this time to you now, and I pray this in my name, Michael Adonia Hentrick of the Blessed and True Family. Amen and adieu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Adonia, for leading us on deep reflection and such a practical message on what we can do, what we can change in our own lives. I love that quote from your prayer. Our life is here, for love, right? It's so true, centered on our Heavenly Parent. So let's really think about that as we have a reflection moment right now. We're going to have our welcome team walk down the center aisle with our basket. So if you feel like you'd like to give for tithing, please, now is your time. And we're also going to be playing some lovely background music for you to reflect on this message. And please feel free to pray and reflect to yourself at this time.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Parents and the true parents, life, Father, today you such a wonderful message through Pastor Adonia Hendricks. Father, time is so time living with every parent and the true parent. Father, we felt so much your love to each person. Father, we really returning joy and glory to you. Father, so much this opportunity. This is the tithing before you through each of us sincere hearts. Please use God's will. Thank each of members' name and David Amico Buluna, Blessed Central Family. Amen. Adieu.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to have the band kicks off with our closing song. So everybody please rise.
All right. We're going to finish it off with some Beatles. Imagine. So I know all of you more wise and experienced people out there love the Beatles. So let's sing this together. But it really has a beautiful heart of imagining what is possible and what we can create.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
We're going to have an announcements done by a video that's a compilation of events that have been happening on the national level. And then afterwards, we're going to excuse all the youth and the children to go to Sunday school.
Hi, this is Karen with your weekly update. Let's start with some words from our True Mother.
On January 9th, True Mother visited the Hyojeong Culture Center. There, she shared some deep insights on Hyojeong culture and its meaning.
내가 근본 한국, 일본, 미국, 신한국, 신일본, 신미국 한 거는 하나님을 모시자는 거야. 하나님을 아는 거에서 그치고 하나님을 모시는 가정, 종족, 나라 세계가 돼야지. 그래서 내가 요즘 뭐라 그러나 효정 문화혁명. 그래서 모든 예술 분야, 음악, 미술 뭐 할 것 없이 다 그런 면에서 효진 형이 앞서갔어. 그 심정에서 우러나는 하늘 부모를 사랑하고 공경하고 그리워하는 그런 많은 명곡들을 만들라 한 거야. 세계적으로 유명한 사람들이 그러한 그 영감을 얻을 수 있는 환경권에서 그런 아름다운 음악이 나왔거든. 그래서 매일매일의 생활이 기쁨과 환희와 그런 생활을 하게 되면 말이야. 여러분들 늙을 새가 없잖아. 내가 지금 늙었니? 난 지금 그런 심정으로 산다.
Hi, this is Crescentia Dagodi of the Blessing and Family Ministry. I would like to extend a heartfelt congratulations to all the couples and families that received the marriage blessing this week and all those who supported them. You may not have heard, but this week, clergy of the ACLC officiated blessing ceremonies for congregants of their churches in locations around the country.
It brought back wonderful memories for me because just 4 years ago today is when I was blessed in holy matrimony with my beloved wife. I never would have imagined in my wildest dreams that I would come back 4 years later and to officiate a holy blessing ceremony 4 years later. I mean, God is just awesome.
We are pastors of the Freedom Hall Church of God in Brooklyn, New York. And tonight, a wonderful night. It's Valentine's night. It's Ash Wednesday. And we have had a wonderful blessing night. Blessing the family, not just the couples, but blessing the family. What a wonderful thing when we can be reminded that it's God's intention to bless us.
It was a surprise for us the way they handle this kind of blessings, and I would like to recommend some other couple. Hopefully there will be more blessings to come in the coming years.
How awesome is it that we are becoming more confident to share our blessings with others? Let's join together to support these newly blessed couples and families and expand God's family.
We've all heard by now that Divine Principle Retreats are held at IPEC every single month. But now, if you go to familyfed.org/dpretreats, you can see we've scheduled out every single workshop this year. Better yet, registration is open for almost all of them. So now you can plan out your budget and schedule to include a visit to Las Vegas at a time in the year that works best for you. Again, that's familyfed.org/dpretreats to see all 4- and 7-day workshops for 2018.
Hi everyone, Richard Busing here. We are going to honor the birthday of our true parents. So this is a chance I would like to encourage all of you to make an offering, to give joy and happiness to our true parents and give the best that you can for this time and make this a special holiday in our church. You can just go to familyfed.org. All the information is there to make your contribution for these special holidays. Thank you all very much.
Go to familyfed.org to get details of all the events taking place in Korea over the next couple of weeks. True Parents Birthday, Foundation Day, and Hyo-jung Culture Festival, and providential events such as ICUS and ILC, as well as the Sunghak Peace Prize. Also find information on how to see live broadcasts of the major events and check in for reports as events happen. Wherever you are, you can go to familyfed.org to keep up with all the exciting things happening in Korea during this special time.
That's all for now. Thanks for watching. God bless, and see you next week.
A great update there, yeah. At this time, I'd like to dismiss all the youth and children to Sunday school. So now is your time to walk out and join together in your Sunday school classrooms. And we have a couple of local announcements around activities and events that are happening here in the Colorado Church. So I'm going to go ahead and start up with those. As we saw in our national update video, we have a couple of holy days that are special in our movement. This upcoming Sunday on the 25th, which is next Sunday, we're going to have a celebration of all the holy days. And we encourage everybody to please bring a dish so that we can have a potluck in celebration all together. There's also going to be a presentation about Reverend and Mrs. Moon's life. You saw a couple of their pictures earlier in the video there. And there's going to be some activities for the youth and a video around the Little Angels course and accomplishments for the children as well. So this is next Sunday, a really great course of events for everybody to join in, and most importantly, we encourage everybody to bring a potluck and to join us in the presentation as well. So mark your calendars, that's next Sunday. Additionally, as we saw in the video, there's the upcoming calendar of schedules for all of the Divine Principle workshops and retreats in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a hub for all of our education and for sharing the core insights of our church with new members and with existing members. And so there's plenty of dates coming up, and if you're interested in attending and making it work with your schedule, we encourage you to talk with the pastors and see how you can make that happen. We have the last marriage course finale session on March 2nd. So as you know, this was a new series of marriage course education events that would happen every Friday as started in January. So the last one is going to be on the 2nd, and it's going to be held here in a testimony style. So we ask for anybody who's interested in attending future marriage courses to come out, hear these testimonies, hear the impact of the series, and to learn a little bit more around if this is right for you for the next time around. So that's going to be March 2nd at 6:30 p.m. and it's the marriage course finale, open to the public for anybody to come to and learn a little bit more about firsthand. We have a special announcement from our Pastor Adonia. So Adonia is going to come up and speak a little bit more about this event, and then Teresa Rischel is going to speak after her about another announcement happening at the local level. So pass it off to Adonia.
Thank you. So many exciting things happening. So as you know, we're going through our third series, and this third part of our series on the dominion of all things. And we actually have somebody in our community here who is just, I feel like, the most qualified and has most experience and most heart, especially when it comes to talking about all things and creation. So on March 11th, which is the final day of our series, after service at 12:30, Roger Fuhrer is going to give a presentation. It's going to be called A God-Centered Presentation on Man's Responsibility for the Environment. And I don't know how many of you have had time to spend with Roger, but I've been really fortunate to be able to go on a number of hikes with him. And while we're hiking, we're always talking about, nature, and I've been asking him about his life. And I just keep finding more and more things, including how he's an entrepreneur and how he grew up here in Colorado and how he's hiked pretty much every single trail that you could ever come across in the Rocky Mountains. But on top of that, he was also on the board of directors for two of the most influential organizations of environmental organizations for over 20 years, and the president of one of them. He was a co-founder of the environmental movement in Colorado. And his committees were responsible for lots of influence in protecting the environment, and he also spoke before the Senate Committee for the Environment in Washington, D.C. So he really, I feel like you could take a lot of different perspectives on the environment, but I feel like Roger really sees the environment and creation from God's perspective, and that's really what has allowed God to work in his life to do so much. here in Colorado. And I feel like if you're curious about this mysterious man's life, if you're curious about maybe what we could do in our own personal lives to take care of and be good stewards of creation, I encourage you to go to this event. So that's March 11th after lunch at 12:30. Also, this is Yosuke's last Sunday with us. Yosuke, where are you? There he is. So he's going to be going to Korea to teach, and it's been really wonderful having him with us and helping out with some articles. He's helped with video game competitions. He's been traveling and doing a translation for people coming to America. And now he's going to be going to Korea. So we're going to miss him, but hopefully you'll be back often to visit. And it's not really goodbye, but give him your congratulations if you see him today. And last of our announcements, not least, many of you know that Mrs. Moon, True Mother, has really created a new organizational style for our movement in all countries that's really allowing for ownership, grassroots growth, and in our own area, block here, she's done that as well. So I'm actually going to invite Teresa up to just share a little bit about what that looks like for us. And we even have a couple members of our community who have been, I guess, selected, appointed, nominated to really be like key transformers in that. So I'll let Teresa talk about that.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I apologize if you haven't seen me in a couple weeks. In my national role with CARP, I do travel quite a bit. I was in Seattle last week. But you always get to see my husband as the MC Neil every other week. So I'm happy to be here and share some of the updates for this region, this block. Has everybody heard about these new block structure subregions? All right. So back in November, Mother Moon came and visited New York and met with a number of the leadership there and actually created 5 blocks, as they're called, 5 subregions. So Colorado is part of subregion number 4, and Reverend Jackson, everybody know him, pretty awesome, down in Dallas, Texas. So we're part of that region, which includes Las Vegas and Texas and Arkansas and Colorado and that kind of area, right, the South. And part of this new structure is, this is really meant to empower the local communities. And I'm really excited about this because it means a lot more support locally. And how can we really look at the structures that we have and the programs and really invest into them? So the way that this structure works is we have 5 kind of sub-regional block leaders. Reverend Jackson is the one in this area. And then under him is like a Secretary of State, Chief of Staff kind of person who kind of helps oversee things while Reverend Jackson, for example, is now in Korea and often traveling. So all of these positions have been announced. They were actually announced last week in Dallas, so I just want to communicate those. So that Secretary of State position is Isaac Hernandez. He's a young unificationist, mid-20s, and that's really exciting because this is a chance for young leaders to really learn and inherit the traditions. And then under that are a number of key positions to support the block, including youth, witnessing and education, and blessing and family ministry. And the role of these special ministries is to really invest, for example, in this block area, to invest in the Colorado community, to invest in the Dallas community, and really see how we can support and share resources and best practices. So some of these positions, the Cherutich couple will be taking care of blessing a family. They're from Dallas. But actually the 2 other positions, which will be serving this region, are from Colorado. You guys excited to hear? Drum roll. Okay. So actually, if I can invite those two people to come up, and these are both people who really demonstrated investment in their communities and also have a heart to really extend that and serve to the greater area. So their Director of Education for the Block is Dr. Reverend Michael Hendrick. He could come on stage. He has a wealth of experience. And then representing youth, we have Tammy Tamayo. So I can speak especially towards the youth since I'm part of the National Youth Team, so really excited to work with Tammy. And the idea is basically, at least in the youth area, sometimes the pastors sometimes the pastors have a lot going on, a lot of different ministries. So for example, for the youth, I'm really excited that Tammy would be the one who can kind of really invest in the youth ministry, young adult ministry, children's ministry, young adult, to really make sure that there is a pathway so that when students reach high school or college, they have support structures that they need. And I just wanted to give both of you just a quick what you're excited about in these roles. That's okay? Yeah? Okay.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, first of all, I haven't seen you as much as I would like to, but of course you see my husband and my kids all around, and that's really why I'm here. I'm really concerned and committed about the future, especially we have such a large community of up-and-comings, and really to have like a clear, like Teresa was saying, a clear path to from preschool to college and beyond, to really have a clear path and really something to look forward to. And again, I'm looking forward to sharing our practices, what's working here, and taking things from other communities. We'll be visiting those communities as well throughout the semesters, and I'm excited to see what everyone's up to and to share what we're doing as well with our immediate circles and worlds and things like that. So yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm just thrilled about Tammy being in that role, She's such a creative thinker, and she has such a passionate heart for our young people, and so I'm just thrilled about that. You already know me, and so I'll be bringing my creative abilities to the outreach and teaching area best I can, and I think there's definitely room for improvement, and we need to step back and brainstorm and look at all that stuff fresh and make a new run at it, and we're looking forward to doing all that with everybody in this whole sub-region. But I'm just thrilled about Tammy, so God bless her.
All right, thank you so much, and best of luck in your new role. What I'm also really excited about is the idea is in each of these subregions that they really act as a nation and really take on responsibility for restoring this country, this nation, block by block, right? So the idea is providing more support, more focus on the blessing and education and youth so that we can really be empowered to move forward and create, a family for a heavenly USA. Aju? Aju. All right, thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'll be around, and I'm happy to share about any of the national initiatives. So thank you.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you to both Tammy and Dr. Hendrick for stepping up and for playing that role in transforming our community. Let's do our role in also supporting them. So I think the last thing I'd like to share here is we have an upcoming really exciting type of service, and this is going to be on March 25th. So who here likes music? I'd say everybody. For me, it's one of, I think, the most impactful moments of church where you really feel it in your heart. We're going to have a whole service dedicated just to music in a music ministry type of format. So there's two musicians that'll be joining us, Sarah Ide and drummer Sean Garrison. and the entire service will be focused around music, so please plan on attending. It's really going to be a special event, and that's going to be on March 25th, and we'll be sending more details out via email, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And then this last reminder is that next week is going to be that potluck lunch style in celebration of our holy days, so please also mark that on your to-do list to bring food, and obviously in efforts to partake in the wonderful food that will be brought as well. So that's all that we have for the announcements.